Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy here. 4 nerds by nerds, hanging out with the crew.
Ryan.
Nate.
And today we're going to do a terrible terrain. We've had several different requests from different viewers across multiple platforms for us to do a video on labyrinths.
Labyrinth.
Yes.
Yes.
You could get lost in it.
You could get lost in it, but hopefully we won't get too lost in this video.
So,
Right.
the labyrinths are really cool, and I'd say that it differentiates from a dungeon because, I mean, we were talking about different ones a little earlier, and you were saying, well, if it's a straight line, it's not a labyrinth kind of thing. Like if it's a railroad, it's not really a labyrinth. But the idea that basically, if you can have any kind of confusion or choices on which way to go, but you're kind of boxed in some area, that could be a labyrinth.
Let's first of all explain one thing. Like, there's one thing to point out. Like, what is a labyrinth? A labyrinth ultimately is a big puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a labyrinth is a maze
that you get out by solving.
Yes, exactly. So
and you won't get out without solving.
Here's the parameters for it to be considered a labyrinth. One, there has to be exit points and an entry point, and the objective for the players is to find the exit points.
Right.
Or find something at the center of it. So and then in that case, you also have to find your way back out. But ultimately, in a sense, it's a big puzzle that they have to solve. And the end goal is to either get out from one of the other exits, or to locate something specific in the labyrinth. Then labyrinths come in 2 different varieties, I will say: magical, non-magical.
Very distinct.
And then from there, you can offshoot into subcategories of each of those. So the overarching, to me, that when I think of labyrinth, that's what I think of. Now, I've run several labyrinth. Actually, over the years, I've run quite a few different labyrinth adventures because I like them. They're fun. It's very tropey and traditional. Mm-hmm. And I've done everything from you're stuck in the labyrinth, you have to find your way out, to, your objective is either at the center or the other side of the labyrinth, and you just have to go through it. And then also with the labyrinth, I feel like there's certain monsters that just feel iconic towards it.
Whenever I think of labyrinths, I think of David Bowie. Yeah.
That would be a terrifying monster to place in your labyrinth.
Yeah.
And really spiky, flossy hair.
Yeah, absolutely. Warlock or sorcerer.
Or both.
Or both.
Or patron.
Yeah. Or
he's got goblin warlocks for him.
Yeah.
They're not very bright or effective, but
they do exist. And he loves them.
They're really good at stealing babies.
They are great at stealing babies.
So obviously, the number one big baddie of all time for a labyrinth is obviously the Minotaur.
Minotaur or Medusa, because then you just have all this lovely, very lifelike statuary floating about in the labyrinth.
That also works. They're 2 iconic monsters. I think a Sphinx works very well for a labyrinth.
Oh, especially if there's a bottleneck where you need to pass this Sphinx to go into the next section of the labyrinth.
And then they have some riddles to deal with.
Yes.
Yeah. Constructs are always great inside of a labyrinth too. They always make a lot of sense. Some nice devious traps.
Yeah, when you're looking at labyrinth too, you have to think of things that either can negotiate the labyrinth without issues, or things like you said that they're self-sustaining.
They don't really need to eat or whatever, or there are things that just are gonna know the labyrinth like the back of their hands and be able to just navigate it, or they know the cheats about the labyrinth.
And that can be an advantage to the players if they discover that there is a creature that actually knows what it's doing in the labyrinth. They could try and follow its tracks or try and capture one.
Or negotiate with it.
Yeah.
Parlay. The other thing, labyrinths are usually either created to confuse someone, or they're found for that purpose. Again, back to the puzzle thing. So, generally, when you have a labyrinth, there's there's definitely a purpose and a reason. Mad wizards for some reason love them. I don't know why. They just do.
It's to separate out the mice from the men.
Well, that's true. It could be, and there's different ways of doing it. Like you could go with the hedgerow labyrinth, which is very very traditional. You could go with the stone walls labyrinth. You can go with the natural cavern labyrinth. You could do magical walls of force if you wanted to.
Right, or like the inside of some dead beast, or like long forgotten god, or something like that. That you can navigate through.
or a hive that you think normally is organized, but maybe it's not organized to a normal human mindset. So it has its own structure and organization, but they also, if it's large enough for people, threatening people to come in, then it's going to be kind of a labyrinth just by its nature to protect the queen and everything in the interior. And it's an ancient hive, so they're not there anymore, but some wizard or somebody's taken it over and put something in there.
Well, yeah, that definitely goes along with the concept or the idea that, if the labyrinth wasn't created and it was found, that they found it with that purpose of it's confusing and hard to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's definitely consideration when you're running this type of adventure.
Right, who made the thing? Why does it exist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Again, another consideration for Labyrinth is you don't want your players to just climb to the top and be like, "Oh,
No,
I need to go there. I'll walk across
totally
the top."
cheat it. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're a little girl or boy trying to run through this giant hedge maze that's 12 feet tall, that's intimidating. But when your guy's like, I've got to climb speed, why can't I just climb to the top and look?
Right, or I got a rope and a grappling hook.
I'm a monk. Why can't I just leap over all the hedges and things?
Because the Aarakocra wardens of the labyrinth will come and basically they drag a rope and they'll just kind of bull rush you through, clothesline you back down so you take the falling damage.
You could do that, but I would probably use something a little bit more intimidating. But you could do a guardian creature,
a plane of annihilation.
Yeah. Oh, I was thinking even just your typical rock would probably do.
Oh, like a large beast that'll fly down and eat you if it sees you.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the hedge maze is like a protection area because it can't get down there that easy.
Well, in some regards, yeah. Or maybe it's a magically bound guardian that its sole purpose is to make sure things do not cheat.
Well, it's trained. Yeah, it's trained
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah, it could be what was it? Never Ending Story. The laser beam guardians. Those things that just blast things to bits.
Oh yeah, you could definitely do that. I mean, I've done things like that.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to clue them in.
Oh yeah,
Give them
yeah. You get
fair
some kind of creature runs away from you and runs up there. And
I think
boom.
so I guess what I did was I used flying creatures in the labyrinth, and the clue was they could easily fly above the walls, but they never did. So it kind of made the players think when they thought they were going to climb up there. I just reminded them, they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do that, and they tested it, and they threw rocks in the air, and the rocks got exploded. When I did the hedgerows, what would happen is the tendrils from thorn-covered tendrils from these poisonous hedgerows would shoot out and grab whatever tried to climb over, and rip them back down.
Yeah. So.
And mangle them.
Yeah.
So you have to make it unappealing. Yeah, you make that option unappealing.
Yep. Makes some problems exist.
Or have a cavern ceiling.
Or you just have a ceiling.
Yeah.
Done that too.
Or it could just be a transparent force field that you can climb up to an extent, and it's there's a solid barrier even though it looks open.
Yeah, well that's also another way.
Because
The glass lid.
FU, it's magic. Yeah.
FU is magic. Or either that, or you're in a laboratory and the scientists just put a sheet of plastic over top.
Yeah, glass. You don't realize it,
The
but your
scientists.
characters are actually mice, and in the real world. Yeah.
The one labyrinth I did was we had our god of hunt and savagery, Morganus, and he had this huntsman as a kind of a mythic figure, and once a year he would bring forth this maze, and he would just pluck random people from that world and throw them in there and be like, you got until dawn to escape the labyrinth. If I find you before then, I'm going to kill you. Of course, if the labyrinth kills you, then you die. But if you make it to the other side, before dawn, you receive a boon.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely a game that I had run. The Maze of Mandoon recently. I've run that same adventure for different people now 3 times, and each time I changed it up some. So I like Labyrinth. I also like Labyrinth as a feature in your world. It's something that even if they solve it or do what they need to do, it's still there. So
Right.
you can kind of build up the legend and myth around it.
Yeah, especially if it's something that changes.
Yeah,
over time,
you
or
could
has terrible beasts in it.
you could do a ancient city that is abandoned now, and actually turn that into a labyrinth.
Yeah, especially if there's if there's something dangerous that, like maybe if you need to like try and stay in the shadow all the time, and if you're out in the sun for too long, something like will notice you and try and like capture you or attack you or something. Like a reason, again, another reason why you don't just like roof hop the whole way around everything.
Well, yeah, and there could be different elevations and things like that to make that more difficult. But if you think about a sprawling city, right, and if you're on a hill or a mountain looking down at it, and it stretches for miles, that it already looks like a labyrinth, and especially if the buildings are built close together.
Especially if they've got junk handles and other New Jerseyan type things in it.
Yeah, well, that would be a more modern
diagonal streets and other things.
And if buildings collapse, and things like that, that would change the landscape.
Yeah.
Or it could be a cursed city, where like you go a certain way. Like maybe there's only one way to enter and one way to leave. And every time you try to leave, like what you would normally think of as a way out, it just puts you back somewhere else. Same thing with, that's why you can't climb and just building hop, because every time you do that, it just then teleports you back to the beginning.
Yeah. Another thing that as far as like climbing up and building hop, you could have like horrible winds that are gonna blow anything off. Like the players might be able to come up with a solution around it, but like the winds are exceedingly bad once you go above this elevation, so you're not going to be able to find purchase.
That's when all of a sudden you realize that guy that took the kite maker kit as his tool proficiency wasn't so crazy after all.
Nope. That's right.
So some of the monsters we'd see in there, like we said, the Sphinx. I would also say if you're going to have an underground one or one that's a cave, I would say you can do the molds. You can do cubes and oozes.
They're good for anywhere, just because
piercers, cloakers.
They just seem to fit.
Yeah.
Undead and constructs, because they are kind of autonomous. They don't really need anything, but they can continually threat. Although the labyrinth itself is a big puzzle, you need to put tricks, traps, and puzzles in there.
Yeah, things that, you go up to a wall and you touch, and you're like, oh, I want to take this torch and light it. Well, now you're on the other side of the wall. Like those kind of strange things and if you don't spend too much time, I'd say, separating the party for strategy-wise, because then it can kind of be...
It bogs down your
it's going to be super clunky.
But it can... That suspense of somebody disappearing and you don't know when you're going to see them again can be cool every once in a while, but just, don't have it be for too long.
It's actually a better tactic to use with an NPC.
Yeah, especially if somebody...
Because you're making the game suck for one player.
Yeah.
Especially if you had something that they needed from the NPC and he has it and he's now lost.
Yeah.
You can have him just show up whenever.
Well, yeah, it definitely adds another layer.
Yeah.
To the game, or to that session. I agree, and like I said, like just to reiterate, I would not do it with the player, because then how long are they separated for? Are you going to run, or are you going to have to go back and forth with the separated party? While it can happen, I wouldn't encourage it as the DM.
Or it has to be very short if you do actually do it.
Or if your players are cool with being patient and just like things happen. Yeah, but yeah. It depends. Like sometimes it's interesting. You could have pit traps with like beasts inside of it. Say with like spikes and beasts, so they fall on the spikes, and then there's beasts there to eat them, like an owlbear. And maybe that there's like some sort of caretakers that give the animal food sometimes. So they don't die. Like so like there's a door that's like, but you can see the outline of the door, but there's no way to open it from the inside of the pit. But there's a thing that clearly implies somebody's got a way to do this.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, or it could go back to maybe that's just like a magical mechanism that's set up that every third day it creates food or something.
Or just the creature's summoned when the fall happens. Like it's like a contingency.
Yeah. Well, that works as well. Summon monsters.
Yeah.
That's also a great way to go about doing things. The DMG, the tricks table, is a great resource for this kind of adventure.
Like talking door knockers.
Yeah. I feel like a labyrinth is a great place for random encounters as well.
The things that are in the labyrinth that got there the same way you did.
Well, yeah, or just wandering around. You roll. over X amount of time, you're going to roll a d6. So on a roll of a 1 or 2, a random encounter happens, and then you have your they're in the Labyrinth random encounter table, and this shows up, and it'll bog down your session time wise because all combats do, and depending on if you care about that or not, it definitely prolongs the threat of being in the Labyrinth.
Mm-hmm. Right, if they're on the timetable or time crunch too. Like,
yeah, it'll hold them up.
Yeah.
And then but then it's too, like, they could always try and just flee.
Yeah.
The encounter as
But
well.
running away haphazardly in a labyrinth is really a way to get more lost than you were. Or serendipitously find something nice.
Yeah, well,
like
and
the
then
next stage
again,
of it.
when you're lost, can you really get more lost?
Yes, you can.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. But you could also, serendipitously find something to get you to the next stage or next section. Where like, oh wow, I just came upon the Sphinx that I needed to ask questions of for this section of the labyrinth to get out of it.
So we don't keep just rambling on. Let's list like the key points of a labyrinth. So one is determining, the basically the overall just theme or design. The second is the second part of that is designing if it's mundane or magical in nature. The third part of that is what is the purpose of the labyrinth?
Yeah.
Is it to keep people in or keep people out?
Is it by accident that they're stuck? If you're looking from the player's perspective,
How did they get there?
Why don't they just leave through the entrance that they just came in? Like that kind of mentality of if it's natural, like why don't I just leave?
Well, yeah, because it could absolutely, or it could be like, oh, there's a mountain, and the best way to get to the other side is going under it.
Yeah,
and that could be like
it's
a
winter,
maze.
and it's going to be 3-month travel, and you might die if you go over the mountain, but you can actually get through the labyrinth in like 3 days or something.
Yeah, something crazy like that.
And they've got a time crunch, so this is the only option.
Or you put something in there that they have to retrieve. Like the thing, the crystal skull on the altar or whatever. Yeah, the chalice of the Faglow.
The chalice of the Faglow, yes.
Yeah, so the reason for the PCs being there is also a big deal within the labyrinth.
Well, yeah, so its purpose, their purpose, all that meshes up. Labyrinth games are a lot of fun. They are, they're very old school. It's in a sense, it's a form of a dungeon, but it's not. I would keep it separate from the dungeon. How to describe a dungeon. So.
There's a lot more to it, I think,
there's a lot,
for that labyrinth feel.
There's a lot of tributaries, lots of directional choices.
And dead ends.
And dead ends. And things that loop back.
Yeah. So, the question is, did we miss anything?
I'm sure we did, but people
on the internet
can help us out.
Yes, they can, in the comments below. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can find us on nerdreki.com.
You can also patronize us in a good way by checking out patreon.com.
Until next time,
Stay nerdy.